level than an outdoorsman or an outdoors woman has. You know, it's everything from how to do your knife work to plant identification, knowing what plants are food, knowing what plants are medicine, certain things like that. I don't need to go to Walgreens and buy me some Neosporin for a scratch when I can walk up to the wild coffee plant and pull it up and use its roots, which is way more powerful antiviral and antibacterial than Neosporin itself. And guess what? There's no place in nature to swipe a debit card, kids. Everybody told me there's nothing in life for free. That's only true in the man village. You know, but out here where the wild things are, everything's free. You know, it's just a matter of knowledge on how to obtain it. You know, but the biggest thing when we get into plants that are medicines, plants that are foods, remember guys, we only take what we need. Because wasting is the same thing as stealing. And nature doesn't like thieves. You know, so we don't take more berries than we can eat, because that's my homie's food too, like the bear. He needs to eat those berries. That's why we don't play with food in nature. You know, the way I was taught in the Indian culture, because I grew up Lakota. You know, we don't play with the animals' foods, because what if that bear sees you playing with this food, man? He might want to come up to you when you're all alone in the woods and be like, "What's up, homie? Remember me? You throwing my berries around?" Yeah, he might decide that he's got a problem with you. We don't want that, right? So first off, I want to show you some things with tools. This is my hatchet. So what I'm seeing as far as bushcraft and survival, I'm seeing kids get into this stuff and they're not being taught properly how to use the tools. And for an example, kids learn about what fat wood is. This stuff right here, which is fat wood is a name for it. There's lighter knot pine is a word for it, lighter pine. What that means, fat wood, is simply any evergreen tree that is dead and full of sap. Like you see how that looks wet when I kind of shake it into the sun? It's because it's full of sap and it's gonna light on fire super, super easy. So kids watch that about harvesting fat wood, and then they go out after they see the video showing them where on the tree to get it, and they go out with the hatchet and they've never swung a hatchet before. I'm watching grown people on YouTube and some of these social media trying to teach, and nobody's taught them, and it's dangerous, guys. So imagine if I've got a piece of wood here, like I'm trying to split that piece of wood in half. That's obviously not a piece of wood. I've got my sheath on, don't worry, I don't want to hurt my water bottle, right? But what I'm seeing, guys, is people doing this to chop that wood in half. Does anyone know what's wrong with that picture? You're using only one hand? Guy like me, I'm 300 pounds, 6'4". I can use one hand pretty safely. That's a great observation. What else is wrong with it?
You're gonna smack your leg.
You're gonna smack your leg, dudes. I have known full-grown men that have done this, guys. It's not just something that a kid will do. Like people that are outdoorsmen, I've seen do this, where they'll take it, the minute it slips, boom, where does that go? Into my ankle, guys. Really, 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 really bad. So think about this. Anytime you swing a blade, whether it's a hatchet or a knife or anything, you want to pretend if you miss, where's it gonna go? Boom, right there. My theory is you only want to cut farts, like cutting air. You know, I only want to cut air. I don't want anything to be in that way, right? So what I would want to do, I'm taller. I'm gonna get down here. Now, if I miss, man, I'm still kind of jeopardizing a toe. People might make fun of me like, why are you wearing flip-flops? Man, I get athlete's foot when I wear hot, sweaty shoes all day. I keep my toes out of the way. Like, you know, I don't understand this whole concept about how sandals aren't tough. Like the Roman Empire conquered half of the world in sandals. You know, Jesus wore sandals. Come on, they're not that bad. So think about like this, guys. If you're holding it, you're gonna want two hands. I'm so big that by putting two hands on, it almost makes me a worse shot because there's so little room. If I have an axe, that's a different tool. So I'm gonna be sitting there going like this. If I had an axe, that's when a hatchet has a longer handle, right? that's when I'm going to be standing. So it's all about safety. So if I take my knife, for example, I'm going to just sit right here, Indian style, so you guys can kind of see how I'm referring to this. So if I've got something and I'm cutting right here, anybody know what the problem is?
You're cutting towards your leg.
I'm cutting towards my leg. This right here, guys, is what we call the triangle of death. There's femoral arteries and stuff in there that you can hit and nick. And guys, think about where we're at right now. If you nick an artery in that triangle of death out here, you're gonna bleed out like a stuck pig before you ever make it to a hospital. That one decision that you made wrong might mean life or death. You know, so this is how important this stuff is, guys. So if I'm sitting here cutting, I want to get out of the triangle of death. I still don't really feel comfortable with that toe right there. So if I was on the ground, I'd just like kind of move it out like this. I'd be out like this. Or I would decide to cut out of that triangle. In this case, I've got somebody behind me. So I'm gonna go over here on this side. If I've got a piece of wood that I'm trying to skim up. So remember, guys, I'm always thinking about where that blade could go. Even if I slip over here, man, I don't know. I'm pretty tough. Like, what if that swung around and caught you? You gotta know. You gotta think about it. I've got a friend that we call Pinkies Up. So if he puts his fist in the air, does this, because he can't move his pinky. And I physically watched him when he went like this to put it into a deer that we had killed to eat. His hand slid down that knife, severed his tendon. By the time I got him to the hospital, it was too many hours. Like, I think you only have an hour and a half to sew that tendon back on, and it worked. So he no longer can use his pinky. But that's why I'll get knives that are purposely grued with some kind of protection, like this one, or like my bigger one right there. It's got a big protector right there. So like my hand can't go down it. On top of that though, there's a way that you hold that knife. If you ever need to drive it down into something, safe way, thumb over. When you're putting that thumb over, guys, your thumb is your strongest finger in your hand. So driving it down like that is gonna even more add protection. You know, I'm not gonna pretend like you're never gonna use a knife in life. I hope that you do. Because this is a tool, guys. It's not a weapon. But the moment that you forget how to use your tool, it can become a weapon against yourself. It's never like what I'm worried about you doing to somebody else with a knife. It's what I'm worried about you accidentally doing to yourself. So trust me, it even happens to people like me who try to get in a hurry. And even I have to remind myself that slow is steady and steady is fast. Because if I'm doing something fast and I hurt myself, it's a game changer in the world that I live in out here. You know, that's some serious, serious, serious mistakes, guys.